Hit the blacktop, midnight sky. JJ Vance got questions he can't deny. Used to have an RV full of case file stack, map full of mysteries, thumbtack. Hear the hum of the tires, feel the pull of the strings. Where the lights in the woods get real deranged. Open your brain holes, where the truth explodes, and hunker on down for a trip on the DCD high, Witness Road. He's riding down the high weirdness road, chasing every story nobody's told. Muppets in the backseat, vampires in tow. JJ Vance on the high weirdness road. Cold case counties and abandoned towns. Something in the shadows keeps swirling round. CIA bots shouting, "Who killed Bill Cosby?" JJ just laughs and cranks the sound. Where the timeline's bend and the truth gets loud, and the moon looks wrong behind a wandering cloud. If the vampires strike, well, that's just how it goes. He's riding down the high weirdness road, where impossible things are the stories he's old. From hidden hollers on a foggy night to the America's wasteland, heartland. JJ Vance on the high weirdness road. He's rolling down the high weirdness road, chasing every phantom the archives hold. Truth gets strange, but he won't let go. JJ Vance on the high weirdness road. Yeah, JJ Vance on the high weirdness road. Hit the blacktop, midnight sky. JJ Vance got questions he can't deny. Used to have an RV full of case file stack, map full of mysteries, thumbtack. Hear the hum of the tires, feel the pull of the strings. Where the lights in the woods get real deranged. Open your brain holes, where the truth explodes, and hunker on down for a trip on the DCD high, Witness Road. He's riding down the high weirdness road, chasing every story nobody's told. Muppets in the backseat, vampires in tow. JJ Vance on the high weirdness road. Cold case counties and abandoned towns.
free fries when you get vaccinated. I got vaccinated. You're saying I could get this, these delicious fries? Wait a minute. But there's also a burger element to this. Let me check with Bill Neathart. Is it too early in the day to eat a burger? No. This could be breakfast? Okay. I want you to look at this and think about, again, some people love hamburgers, some don't. Really want to respect all ways of life. But if this is appealing to you, just think of this when you think of vaccination. Vaccination. I'm getting a very good feeling about vaccination right this moment.
Howdy, folks. Your host, Double J, back here coming at you live from my studio / home on the range, Bison Ranch for now. Located deep inside Big Sky country, the state of Montana. Welcome back, folks, to the interwebs. Once again, your host of Operation GCD here, right there on the screen on the corner. JJ Vance, not the vice president. Do not vote for me in 2028. I'll be too busy vampire hunting. Folks of the interwebs, I will be your pilot and navigator for tonight's shenanigan-infused journey into the mind of this particular garbage can dude. And I'm not going to lie to you, folks, got a real barn burner here on deck for y'all tonight. And on deck for y'all with some film reviews coming up in the Operation GCD Live and Occult and or Esoteric film reviews all month long here. We did Tom Cruise March Madness, and I appreciate Troublemaker Jonah's thoughts and input on those topics of the Tom Cruise March Madness. However, also this month as well, he's got a couple suggestions as well, because we're doing an Operation GCD Live Occult and Esoteric Review April Money Laundering Month. We're celebrating the IRS's hostile negotiations and takeover of everyone's finances via showing and highlighting all the money laundering that goes on in and around, America, but specifically within films and films about money laundering. How about that one? So definitely going to be a fun-filled adventure. And Jonah, please check your messages, but I sent you the list there. But while we're on the topic, before we get into tonight's discussion, I will go ahead and go down the lineup for tonight's or this month's Money Laundering Month of film reviews. First and foremost, Lucky Numbers, starring Xenu's second favorite actor, Tom Cruise March Madness. That was Xenu, the galactic overlord, of Scientology. That was his favorite actor, Tom Cruise. This is his second favorite actor in Hollywood, John Travolta, starring in a lotto scam. A lot of folks like to discuss all of this money laundering surrounding Jeffrey Epstein and the fact that he won the Oklahoma Lotto to the tune of, I believe, $80 million back in 2015. This is post Diddler conviction, of course. And it just so happened that he wins that at a time when the entire Multi-State Lotto Association, which is the overseeing governing body of that specific particular lotto, was being defrauded in a massive campaign by its own security director, his security director's brother, a judge from Texas, so on and so forth. Across the United States, the dude was fixing everything from scratch-offs. Every lotto game he could fix, he was fixing. He was the security director for the Multi-State Lotto Association, which encompasses a variety of states. And I don't know if it's the Powerball or whatever, Mega Millions. I think it's the Powerball they own. They own one of those big multi-state lottos. It's all one big ass blast. It's all one big money laundering scheme. I would argue it's being used for payoffs for a lot of hood rat shit varieties and other nefarious acts, such as depicted in this film over the 1980 Pennsylvania lotto scandal. So definitely check that one out. Also, the subsequent week to that, 2 weeks from now, not two lasers, Godfather Part 3. Perhaps my favorite Godfather, as it depicts the Vatican banking scandal, the assassination of the Pope surrounding that, and highlights the criminal activities of Bob Cocaine Evans' boss, one Charles Bluedhorn, the man that owned Gulf and Western Enterprises, which was the parent company to Paramount Pictures. And strangely enough, Al Pacino, Bob Cocaine Evans' underling, because Old Cocaine Bob's the executive producer of The Godfather. Old Michael Corleone here, played by Al Pacino's, just so happens to be based largely upon the characteristics of Charles Bluehorn, strangely enough. And that Vatican banking scandal reaches all the way to America, numerous capacities, but notably, I'm not the vice president, folks, but notably, we got the Franklin, not the Franklin Credit Union out of Omaha, Nebraska. This is, I believe, the Franklin National Bank, and they were out of Long Island. And it was the president of which was a fellow by the name of Michael Sedona, which he's an interesting Muppet. And then the following week after that, we got April 15th. This was Troublemaker Jonah's idea, and I salute him for using his brain hole for God's intended purposes. This is a great film to do an occult and esoteric review regarding the matters of money laundering. And on the day that the IRS, those crooks, that's really the deadline. If you don't have your hostile negotiations over your own finances completed with those Muppets, those criminal Muppets, by that date, he could be. I'm not a CPA. I'm just saying you could be facing some penalties. They're usually pretty strict about that sort of thing. And then followed by FX2. This is a great film. Haven't seen it. 1991 American action thriller film starring Brian Brown and the legendary Brian Dennehy. Now, I don't know if Brian Brown's a Scientologist, but he sure likes to act alongside a lot of them, including the film of Cocktail with old Tom Cruise there. Strangely, Tom Cruise, I don't believe, fights anybody nor rides a motorcycle in that film. That's before the era where that was a contractual obligation, where Tom Cruise is contractually obligated to, ride a motorcycle really fast, run really fast, and fight folks. So, and speaking of some action like that, we got the last film review of April here, Hudson Hawk. Now, in the notion of money laundering through films, like the producer, they're making a film in which to make a profit by making it lose money. And if you want a real world application of that idea, well, look no further than Bruce Willis's very shitty film that I love from 1991 entitled Hudson Hawk. All-star cast, money laundering, the Vatican Bank, criminal enterprises, espionage, Leonardo da Vinci. It's got all sorts of stuff. It's got Frank Sinatra songs, you name it. Anyway, it says here at the box office it made $97 million. However, looking upon further stats, I don't know where they get that. It allegedly lost somewhere in the ballpark of $40 million in 1991 money, which is about equivalent to approximately or circa $130 million today. So got a fun-filled lineup there, but tonight got a real barn burner on deck for y'all. Where are they now? Society of the Cincinnati Bloodlines. They get a lot of questions, and I got a lot of questions regarding where are these Society of Cincinnati Bloodlines now. As I often allege, all roads in American conspiracy culture or conspiracy theory and conspiracy culture and parapolitics lead back to the society. And I've given countless examples of that. We'll be going over some of those previous examples, and I got 10 new examples in which to compare and contrast these ideas and look to see how all of these officers, especially the ranking ones of the Revolutionary War, the original members that founded America, May 13th, Friday the 13th, 1783, on the banks of the Hudson River there, just south of Newburgh, New York, in the cabin owned by, what was that Muppet's name? General Wilhelm von Steuben. Now, von Steuben is, again, an interesting character as he represents all these other European royal bloodlines, which I've argued this is a long-standing family feud, without Richard Dawson molesting and raping women on the stage, kind of family feuds. But a family feud nonetheless, and we see that represented both ways, both chronologically speaking, since the inception of the Society of Cincinnati and preceding that. So we're going to look at some of those aspects regarding some of these bloodlines in the game I like to call, based on VH1 series from the 90s, Where Are They Now? Society of Cincinnati Bloodlines. So obviously there's 13 chapters of the society, the original 13 colonies. And again, they start the society nearly 3 months prior to the Treaty of Paris in September of 1783. So it is the society that creates America. So you could look at it in one aspect as a military junta that is still ongoing because it's a modern day knighthood where it's passed down through the paternal bloodlines. That doesn't always mean to a son, because there's instances where, well, we'll go over some of the peculiarities and particulars around the membership goes. Because as I've said before, for example, JFK Jr. was likely born into the Society of Cincinnati, courtesy of his maternal grandfather, Jack Black Bouvier #3. And while we're at that, before I get into some of these other details, let's just discuss that topic. And where are they now? Society of Cincinnati Bloodlines number 10. Oh, am I back? Am I back? Okay, cut out there for a second. So we got Jack Black Bouvier, aka John Vernew Bouvier #2, not two lasers, #2 though, of the Bouvier John Vernew styles. This is JFK Jr.'s maternal great grandfather, Jackie Bouvier Kennedy, Onassis, her maternal grandfather, right? And her father's named after him. That's why he's #3. But we can see where this guy, we see he's mentioned in his obituary here from the New York Times article back in January 17th, 1948. John Vernew Bouvier, 83, attorney, is dead. Trial lawyer here, 40 years, specialist in contracts, disposed of 40,000 cases. What exactly does that mean, disposed of? I know the legal term, but I have an idea that they're using that as multifaceted situations. So, he's doing Park Avenue stuff. He's the general counsel for many years for the Aetna Life Insurance Company, the Travelers Insurance Company, the Equitable Life Insurance Company, and the Metropolitan Street Railway Company. A lot of muppetry going on there, I have no doubt. He was the son of John Vernew Bouvier, numero uno, and Caroline Maslin Ewing. And here is the society membership. I told you it gets kind of funky at times. But we'll see him here in his obituaries. He is listed as a Society of Cincinnati member because his dad, who was his daddy, and what he do? Well, his daddy did some stuff, but it doesn't appear that he was a member of the Society of Cincinnati. Not that I could demonstrate. However, his mama's father was. So in the instance where there's not a son to pass it on, it does oftentimes seem it gets passed on directly through a daughter, right? So it got passed on, and that's important to consider with JFK Jr. So, but it gets passed on from Caroline Maslin Ewing's father, who had no sons, on to his eldest daughter's first son, John Vernew Bouvier #2. And that actually comes from a Captain Ewing in Maryland. And we'll use that to demonstrate how no matter how many times I see a published list, as I've mentioned before, folks of the interwebs, I do thank you all for joining me here tonight to get a little GCD here. This is a Patreon preview here. We'll be going over these topics, but and more. But when I say that I've never seen a complete list of the Society of Cincinnati, and every list I see is demonstrably incomplete, we'll use the Ewings here as Captain Ewing is out of the Maryland chapter as another one of those exhibits to demonstrate that point. I do think it's intentional. I don't think they're like, oh yeah, we're just kidding. We didn't know that. No, I mean they're back when I first started talking about these matters on Operation GCD 1.0, circa almost 10 years ago, 10 years next month, and there wasn't even a Wikipedia page for the Society of Cincinnati. And I believe, well, there was. It didn't list any members at the time. It just was a very brief entry. So. Very interesting. I'm not saying I'm not taking credit for that, folks. I'm just saying in the age of information, we do have a lot more information available to us, even though there's a monstrous amount of censorship, right? So, which obviously I've seen censorship around this topic. So it's tough to tell when speaking of the known things around the Society of Cincinnati and their seemingly Muppet acts of distraction and tomfoolery. You never can get a good grasp. Everyone's got a different story on when they come back together, right? Everyone's got a different story because as I've said, the Civil War is very much a part of it's a Society of the Cincinnati Civil War, a year prior to the actual start of the Civil Wars, we're told. So the South Carolina chapter quits in April of 1860. They refused to go to the triennial conference of the Society of Cincinnati. It's a mandated event, and they're like, "Yep, fuck y'all." And then April of 1861, the Civil War begins in Charleston, South Carolina. Well, that's fucking weird, man. That's fucking weird. And then we can see, and we'll look at tonight from the original membership to see where are they now. And each one of these lines, we're going to see officers generally of a general rank variety in the Civil War. Clan Vance, if you're thinking Clan Vance doesn't come up time and time again, well, you're wrong. But we see here in John Bouvier number 2, he's a member of the Society of Cincinnati, right? And that becomes important. And there's numerous references of this. I'm just saying this is the man's obituary, and his ancestors not listed in any of the documents as far as being an official member. So I tend to think that these membership lists are kind of ridiculous. But so here's Jackie's dad, JFK Jr.'s grandfather, who dies in 1957. Thus, when JFK Jr. is born in 1961, I do suspect that he was born in as a member of the Society of Cincinnati as a result of no other men to pass it down to. So here's the dad, Jack Black number 2, Jack Black Bouvier 2. That's just what they called him, Jack Black Bouvier. And then his mother, Carolyn Masson Ewing. Her father, Robert Ewing, who had no sons. His father, James Ewing, who's the son of a Captain James Ewing of the Maryland chapter. And the namesake in Queen Anne County, the namesake for Ewingville, Ohio, Ewingville, Maryland. So he was a captain. This is the membership for JFK Jr.'s, JFK's father-in-law, JFK Jr.'s, Jackie's father. Thus, when JFK Jr. died, actually, he never died. JFK Jr. is alive, trust the plan. But when JFK Jr. dies on July 16th, 1999, right? My 19th birthday. He was a member of the society. Not only was he seemingly running for U.S. Senate of New York against Hillary Clinton, not only was he running that kind of very much a socio-political magazine of George. I wonder if that was named after George Washington, since, he's publishing that magazine at the time. He's, a member of the Society of the Cincinnati, it seems. I don't know. Seems fucking interesting, man. But we'll get into some more of those topics. But generally speaking, with the society on above the, we'll look, for example, with the reorganization of the society. So allegedly, seemingly the overwhelming official narrative is they reconvened in 1877, in line with the Great Compromise of 1877, it seems, which was the Samuel Tilden, the guy who sold Samuel Untermeyer Park, all that weird fucking occult ritualistic homicide shit, devil shit, mound site. He forgoes he allegedly wins the presidency in 1876, forgoes it to get all the federal troops out of the South because he was a carpetbagger in New York, if you will. His father helped finance. I believe the term is financier. I'm sorry, that was Samuel Untermeyer's father helped finance the Confederate States of America. Samuel, I always get those two Sams mixed up. Son of which Sam, perhaps, right? Samuel Untermeyer, Sam Carr, Samuel Tilden, the previous owner. So Samuel Tilden was a member. He was the underling to. He was the protege of Martin Van Buren, the only U.S. president not. I'm not the vice president, folks. Repeat, not. But Martin Van Buren was the only U.S. president not in the bloodline. His wife was. His wife's cousins with all the other presidents. Not old Martin there, but Martin was a member and up from a very early age, from the Aaron Burr days. That Society of the Cincinnati member that tried to take over America, and murked Alexander Hamilton, fellow New York chapter member Alexander Hamilton, then President General of the Society of the Cincinnati. strange that historians don't recognize that as Burr's first event in taking over America. They're like, no, that shit was personal, bud. He started trying to do a coup on America after that. I'm like, get out of town, dude. He murks the president general of the Society of the Cincinnati, and that's his first, clearly, in my opinion, obviously, it's his first act in the coup. And we see that same, and that was out of his Tammany Hall faction of politics in New York City, which is what birthed Martin Van Buren and Samuel Tilden. And on top of that, we see that same faction of politics and the folks that got ousted in the Burr conspiracy forming the political power center of the Confederate States of America. So we see the continued throughput of activity out of that Tammany Hall faction and all the way to the Great Compromise of 1877. And that's allegedly when the society largely gets back together. But we'll see in the North Carolina chapter documents, they claim not to reorganize until 1896. So again, all these Muppets have a different tale. So sometimes it is difficult to discern what is actually real. But obviously, there's a lot to be said about the French chapter, not the least of which is the French largely helped establish what we call America, the Northwest Territory, the Louisiana Purchase. And that was a society of the Cincinnati deal through and through, the Louisiana Purchase, but aided and abetted from the Frenchmen's. And we got folks like, this guy's not a society guy, but he is largely credited as a founder of the city of Chicago. Old Jean-Baptiste Pont du Sable. Probably butchered it, but whatever, dude. So, and I think it's interesting because see, here in 1779, during the American Revolutionary War, he was arrested by the British on suspicion of being an American patriot sympathizer. So, and it's interesting because there's a lot of that back and forth there. Much of the Northwest Territory, the new America after the war there, beginning with Ohio, was previously the sites of expeditions of numerous French explorers from the fella whose name the French Muppet fellow's name I can't think of at the moment, who actually was the first explorer into what is now Claremont County, Ohio, and he is the namesake for naming it Claremont County. This is the east side of Cincinnati, the city of Cincinnati, the operational center of the Society of Cincinnati, to date, I would argue. But we see the French explorer there. It's not LaSalle, but he's one of the French explorers. Anyhow, he names it Claremont after the Council of Claremont, where the Knights Templar were founded. Shocker. Anyway, so it is important to consider these all these royal bloodlines as a factor. The French factor, they're their own factor all by themselves. And then you got the continued family feud factors, right? On above the overt family feuds we see with these bloodlines, we see it within the same families. So we have the Sinclairs, like of Rosalind Chapel Sinclairs, out of what county of Scotland is this? I don't forgot. Caithness, I think is how they pronounce that. Caithness. So he's a British officer at the time of the Revolution. George Washington had been a British officer. He was the commanding officer for the Virginia militia. He inherited that from his elder brother Lawrence Washington upon his early death. So we see that sides were taken. So Lieutenant General Patrick Sinclair is a cousin of General Arthur Sinclair, who was the last executive of the Continental Congress before the establishment of the U.S. president position after the war, right? From 1783 to 1790, there was a Continental Congress with executives before there was an actual president in 1790, George Washington. If y'all didn't know that, George Washington was the first president. So, but this General Arthur Sinclair became the governor of the Northwest Territory. So he was helping establish the new America. He's an integral party, and again, they're from the same county, same clan, right? So I don't know the exact relations, but demonstrably they are cousins in some regard, being from the same county and the same clan. And again, we see Clan Vance all over this situation. In fact, I recently realized that that Muppet John McCain is descended from the French side of Clan Vance, the DeVaux, D-E-V-A-U-X, DeVaux. Same family, different wing of it. But we continue to see these internal kind of bloodline feuds with folks like this Muppet. You pronounce it. I don't know. Colonel, you tell me. Middle name Schuler. So Schuler's one of the first Dutch families to New Amsterdam, aka New York. And you can see how they are all intertwined up there. And we'll get into that with one of those bloodlines tonight here. But his godparents were his uncles, Philip Van Cortlandt and Peter Schuler. So, for example, David Crosby is David Van Cortlandt Crosby. He's actually a Schuler and a Van Cortlandt. And we'll get into that further here tonight, folks of the interwebs. But I do thank y'all for joining me here tonight to get a little GCD on these Society of the Cincinnati Bloodlines, Where Are They Now style. And we see that this is the same Dutch families that are intermarried with Alexander Hamilton. So Alexander Hamilton marries Elizabeth Schuler, Philip Schuler's daughter. Philip Schuler was a general out of the New York chapter as well, and a close associate of Washington. So that's fucking interesting, man, because Hamilton and Washington were tight. I've long suspected, I have no proof, I've long suspected that when Washington was down in the Caribbean with his elder brother Lawrence there that died, he had tuberculosis. They both had tuberculosis, I believe, and they were trying to heal their tuberculosis with better climates. I guess that was a solution back then. I do believe that that is when he likely met. They came across, or perhaps there's a greater lineage, I don't know, or knowledge going back further of each other, but met the Hamiltons of the Scottish clan there that were early, white settlers there in the Bahamas. So, and that is, where Alexander Hamilton hails from. That is his paternal heritage, is that same clan. So, and that is where George was, right down there. So I do suspect there is some crossover there, but that is just my suspicions. But again, another thing to consider is we have two different sides of the same family, and they don't always agree here on the Society of Cincinnati. We got the Virginia side of the Lincoln family, right? Well, this is Abraham Lincoln's paternal grandfather, Abraham Lincoln. And then we got his cousin, a General Lincoln, out of the Massachusetts chapter, because one side went to Virginia, the other side went to Massachusetts, and this is a lot of families that came here. A lot of the families that established America, the Society families, one side, when they came into America, one side went to Massachusetts, the other side went to Virginia. So I think that's a factor that should be considered. Also considered, again, back to that French chapter and these other European bloodlines. This Swedish situation, we have a couple Swedish fellows here, original members of the society out of the French chapter. This one was allegedly Marie Antoinette's side piece. He was the ambassador to France from Sweden, and he got murked later. And there was a Society of the Cincinnati Revolution in Sweden in the 1790s, and he got murked up after murking some other dude who was in King Charles's lineage, right? So again, we can see these ongoing feuds still, I would argue, today. And of course, in the French chapter, we got the Devals and the Devences. This is all Clan Vance of back to the Norman invasion. So Clan Vance goes back to Normandy and the Norman invasion in 1066. William the Conqueror and his two cousins Vance, they would cede both lines of the Vances. One, they're spread out, but those are the two originators back to the Normandy sides, which is the Knights Templar's heritage. So, but we see this fellow's out of the French chapter. He's one of their naval Muppets. And I think it was Clint the other day here, Clint Eastwood, asking me about the heritage of one David Koresh, Vernon Howell Jr. And I said, well, there's a number of Howells in the Society of Cincinnati. So when I say all roads lead back to the society, I do mean that, because I haven't done his heritage yet, but these are just two of the Howells that are represented in the society. This is I believe he was a Colonel Howell out of New Jersey, and this one was I believe a General Howell out of Pennsylvania. Yeah. So, we're talking some ranking Howells there, if you will. And then again, it's interesting when you start understanding these dynamics of the entire war that was really going on here, not just America, not France, not just Sweden, because we have von Steuben, Casimir Pulaski from Poland. I think he's actually Czech ethnically, though. We got a Baltic German fellow here from the Baltic nobility. It is these other royal bloodlines from the European royalty, right? And again, the French chapter got thrown out of there in 1792 after King Louis and Marie Antoinette got their heads fucking lopped off, man. And then we can see where this was one of the first wars America almost fought was in regards with Thomas Jefferson in the first French Republic. So, there was disputes amongst the obviously when a chapter of the society has to leave and take some of them went to England. I don't know how England was more favorable at that time, but supposedly it was, I guess, right? I don't get it. But the Polish, again, there's that Polish lineage as well, Polish Lithuanian specifically in this case. Old Tadeusz Kaczynski. Sounds a lot like Ted Kaczynski. And the Kaczynskis are a major political family in Poland today. So I don't read Poland, and I don't have access to a lot of the records regarding this Muppet. Kind of does look like a Muppet. But I do suspect there is some sort of connections there between the powerful Kaczynski family in modern day Poland, this fella. And again, he seemed to fall in line with some of the anti-liberty aspects, I would argue, within the society, which again is another factional divide. So you have bloodline factional divides, kind of political, socio-factional divides. There's just, they're always seemingly trying to pull one over on each other and land-wise, cheating each other out of land deals, etc. It's fascinating studying some of the acts of these Muppets, but he got caught up in some of these matters with that French situation. He was actually considered to be a French sympathizer there, and there in his life, and something called the XYZ affair. I couldn't find the reference there, but it's right here, and this was during the John Adams presidency there, and it's which led to the quasi war there. I was just referencing regarding the French sent away the diplomats, including the then President General of the Society, soon to be President General of the Society of Cincinnati after the murking of Alexander Hamilton in 1803, Charles Cotesworth Pinckney of the South Carolina chapter. He takes over. He's the third President General. Him and his brother's the fourth. They rule the Society of Cincinnati, the Pinckney boys, for like 40 years. And I've actually been covering that along with the Aaron Burr conspiracy and the Louisiana Purchase and some of the French chapter business in Chasing Manier series with my dude Brad Minyard. He found his here on Operation GCD. Brad found his forefather had been recruited by George Washington's chief spy recruiter out of the Massachusetts chapter, a Captain William Ricard, and was a spy. His forefather was a spy following around the Burr conspiracy in the years previous to the Burr conspiracy. So Washington seemed to have a clue on it, but Washington had a clue on a lot of things, I think, because if y'all remember this Muppet who took that tin can with the video game remote control and a couple DEI engineers down to the Titanic, or tried to at least, right? Richard Stockton Rush III. He, on June 18th, 2023, Rush died along with 4 others when OceanGate's submersible Titan imploded during an attempt to visit the wreck of the Titanic. Clearly, he didn't talk to James Cameron. Had he spoke with James Cameron, he would have found out James Cameron got down there all right. The Titanic guy. So Richard Stockton Rush III, not a shocker. He was a big DEI, big commie bastard, if you will. He's a direct paternal descendant of this man. Out of the New Jersey chapter, or was it Pennsylvania chapter? One Benjamin Rush, one of the founding fathers, the signatory of the Declaration of Independence. And let's see, was he Philadelphia? Thought he was out of New Jersey. Anyway, he was the Surgeon General. No, so he was just the overall Surgeon General. That's right. He was a Surgeon General, and he involved himself in a coup against Washington, known as the Conway Cabal. Washington didn't take his head off. Washington didn't hang him, right? He wasn't tarred and feathered. Didn't have his entrails removed, right? None of that. He just asked for his resignation. So what a tyrant, that George Washington. So, but not a surprise, we got a commie bastard who Ford and Benjamin Rush, I would argue. And then, 4 generations later, we get his paternal descendant here, real dickbag, Stockton Rush III. Who takes a tin can with a video control remote and a bunch of commies down to see the Titanic? That guy does. That guy. So I just think that's interesting. I've covered that one before as well, but I just think it's it's interesting to consider, because not only is it an organization, the society that is, an organization based upon the concept of who is your daddy, what does he do? Seems to be they pass on their values to their sons in these bloodlines, I would argue. So way behind any comments in the chat. Oh, is RR channel here? How dare I miss that? Anyhow, thank you all for joining me here tonight, folks of the interwebs, join me to Gill GCD. I see a lot of comments and suggestions. I don't see any baking recipes, sadly. Surprised Kane's in the chat. Kane B's The Purge tomorrow afternoon, where the folks can tune in to myself joining Mr. Kane B as his co-host in fast food news, type 2 diabetes talk, and the occasional Idaho 4Case discussion. So with that, I'm surprised there's no baking recipes. How dare you, Kane? How dare you? Anyhow, folks of the interwebs, come on down to, what is that? Their patreon.com/Operation GCD and join us for the rest of the conversation. While you're on your way over there, watch out for lasers.
There's thousands of Americans out there. By the way, There's thousands of Americans out there. By the way, I've been shot with a laser beam twice.
Oh, am I back? Did they get Ted? Oh, shit, they may have got me twice. What the hell's going on around here? Anyhow, catch you folks next time.
Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Out in the holler where the secrets creep, garbage can dudes digging mighty deep. Secret societies, shadows in the pines. Operation GCD of American rebels design. Double J searching deep in his brain hole, past layers of melted hops and bone resin. From cults to cover-ups, we're talking about all of that. So watch your sixth friend and the truth we trust. The world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Join us on the journey and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us to get a little GCD. Yeah, the world's a puzzle, brunch rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo coats haunt the moon's pale beam. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Hell, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Operation GCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Out in the holler where the secrets creep, garbage can dudes digging mighty deep. Secret societies, shadows in the pines. Operation GCD of American rebels design. Double J searching deep in his brain hole, past layers of melted hops and bone resin. From cults to cover-ups, we're talking about all of that. So watch your sixth friend and the truth we trust. The world's a puzzle, grunge lighting things ablaze. OpGCD with an Appalachian grin. Adventures and shenanigans, we're diving right in. Join us on the journey and enjoy the show. Thanks for joining us to get a little GCD. Hey, the world's a puzzle, brunch rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo coats haunt the moon's pale beam. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Hell, the world's a puzzle, grunge rock ain't what it seems. Ancient alien cargo cults haunt the moon's pale beams. Cincinnati schemers, history's a haze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze. Double J's on the mic, lighting things ablaze.
Boom!